Day one of free agency is wrapping up, and the Dallas Stars bolstered the fourth line with the re-signing of Colin Blackwell and a return of Radek Faksa. However, they missed out on Mikael Granlund, Matej Blumel, and upgrades to the blue line. Let's recap July 1st next.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free, available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Welcome to my reaction of Dallas Stars free agency day number one on Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. A relatively quiet and expected day from the Dallas Stars that saw them sign Colin Blackwell and Radek Faksa. Yes, Radek Faksa is coming back to the Lone Star State. We'll break those down, but some exciting news off the ice as well. Glen Gulutzan is now official. He will be the head coach of the Dallas Stars. Plus, Neil Graham was promoted to become a Dallas Stars assistant coach. We'll tell you more about that later on today's show. But let's dive right into NHL free agency. We'll talk about some of the deals away from Dallas as well. Cody Ceci got paid. So did Mikael Granlund, which was to be expected. And I think really solidified why the Stars weren't going to be able to retain him. But let's start with Colin Blackwell, the first move of the day by the Dallas Stars. Blackwell has been re-signed by the Dallas Stars, 2 years, $1.55 million. The annual AAV is $775,000, which is the league minimum. And he, of course, signed a 1-year contract for $775,000 last season. And just love this deal all around. It's good value, of course, for both the Stars. And I think it's a good fit for Blackwell as well. He's bounced around over the last few years. I'm sure he would like to stay put for another season. Was rather productive in his role. 17 points, 6 goals in 63 games. Had that big playoff goal against Winnipeg, against Colorado in Game 2 with the overtime winner. And it's just an Energizer bunny that you love to have around. He's great inside the dressing room. He obviously has skins on the wall. I'm sure he is a great role model for younger players in the dressing room as well. He's had his struggles with injuries, and he's just found a way to put in the work. He's that Energizer bunny type that I think the Stars really needed at points during this past season. And when you go through a long 82-game stretch with injuries and ups and downs, Blackwell is consistent, and you know what you're going to get out of him, and he's going to be here in Dallas for the next couple of years. So glad the Stars and Blackwell were able to get that done. That was the first move. Then about an hour later, the return of Radek Faksa. And look, I am not a hater on Radek Faksa by any means, but it certainly does not move the needle for me. And I understand the Stars need a veteran that just understands his role to sort of bolster the fourth line. Would I've rather kept Matej Blumel? Yes, I would have rather had Matej Blumel over Radek Faksa. However, we'll get to Matej Blumel in a bit. I understand why they went out to re-sign Radek Faksa, or went out to sign him to bring him back. He can just slot in on that fourth line. He'll be your center every single day, and you know what you're going to get out of him. However, I'm just like, you have Radek Faksa at home and Oscar Beck, so I don't understand the need to have this reunion in a lot of ways, but Stars fans seem to be pretty excited by it. I'm not, just because I would rather maybe see a young up-and-coming guy in the AHL get a spot. But at the same time, the Stars have to fill some roster needs. They have to fill some roster spots, and this is one way to do that. And let's not kid ourselves. The Stars need help. They need some depth, especially within the bottom six. And we can get into it now. By the way, the deal for Radek Faksa was 3 years, $2 million was the AAV. He's 31 years of age. In St. Louis this past season, had 5 goals, 15 points in 70 games. His production has just slowly sort of decreased over the years, but we know he's a defensive forward. He's good in the faceoff dot, and he's responsible. Actually had really good success in St. Louis in the postseason, had 5 points in 7 games in that first round against Winnipeg. He almost scored the game-winning goal, or at least what we thought was going to be the game-winning goal in that series until the miraculous comeback by the Jets. But if he can put together a postseason like that here in Dallas, I'm not going to complain about it too much. And again, I'm not trying to throw cold water on the return of Radek Faksa. I think we were just all hoping for a bit more. And for the most part, let's just look at the Stars roster. Like, they're going to need some guys to really step up, and they're going to need some offensive production out of some players that really didn't have to carry that burden last season, like a Maverick Bourque, even a Sam Steele a bit. I think is going to get elevated in the lineup, and I kind of wanted to jump to this a bit as well, just looking at the depth chart right now for Dallas. And I just kind of threw together a few lines, and of course, this doesn't mean this is what Glen Gulutzan is going to do. I'll go ahead and say this is absolutely what he's not going to do. But Roope Hintz, Jason Roberts, and Mikko Rantanen is your top line. Matt Duchene, Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, however you want to kind of work that second line out. But Wyatt Johnston, Sam Steele, Maverick Bourque. And then you have Faksa, Beck, Blackwell, and Ritskovian would be your 13th forward. On the blue line, which we already know, it's Esa Lindell, Miro Heiskanen, Thomas Harley, Ilya Lyubushkin, Liam Bichsel, Niels Lundqvist, and Alex Petrovic. And I'm already hearing the comment section, why were they not able to get rid of Dumba or Lyubushkin? I'll revert back to my usual stance on the case. I don't know what the market is. You have to find a willing partner to take that contract. And as we know here, and why we're wanting to get rid of Dumba, maybe not as much as Lyubushkin, but Dumba, number one, we know he's not that great. How are you going to find a trade partner that's willing to give you anything for a player that's just not that productive and is not going to fit in the roster, however it may shape out? It's really hard to do that. And I would love for the Stars to find a way to get him off the books. It would be wonderful to see that pop up on Twitter as I'm scrolling right now. Jim Nill did say Evgeny Dodonov will be signing elsewhere. So that's another player the Stars are not going to be able to retain, which is not very surprising as well. So that's kind of where the Stars are at this point. They have 12 forwards under contract: Rantanen, Seguin, Hintz, Johnston, Robo, Duchene, Steele, Faksa, Benn, Bourque, Beck, and Blackwell. And then on defense, Miro, Esa Lindell, Harley, Dumba, Lyubushkin, Lundqvist, Bichsel, and Petrovic. By the way, there wasn't a ton of blue line help out there, to be fair to Dallas. Not a ton of right shot defensemen, which also may give you hope that someone would take a risk on Dumba or a risk on Lyubushkin. And a lot of the players we talked about coming into free agency re-signed already yesterday on June 30th, which took a little, luster out of today. But there was a lot of interesting signings that I want to get to as well. Let's just talk about Mikael Granlund. He just signed a 3-year, $7 million deal with Anaheim, $7 million AAV. So just no ways the Stars were going to make that work. And there was reports they were really trying hard to get that to happen. Unfortunately, it was not going to work with that number. Sort of a Chris Tanev situation there. Cody Ceci, by the way, how he keeps duping these general managers to give him money, who knows? 4 times 4.5 AAV. He's making more than Thomas Harley next year. And again, different circumstances, but still, he'll be making more than Harley. In 4 years, at 31 years of age, he got paid. So credit to his agents. He got paid quite a bit. Now, One that really, really hurt, Matej Blumel. He was a UFA, and he signed a one-way deal, with the Boston Bruins, which I think was probably a point of contention with the Dallas Stars that may have wanted to offer him another two-way deal, and he believes he should have a crack at the NHL probably last season. And look, he was really, really incredible last year in Texas. He got better. He improved. Of course, led the Texas Stars in points, and now he's getting a crack with the Boston Bruins. Man, that hurt because I was expecting, I had him sort of penciled in, like he was going to be on your bottom six, and he was going to get elevated and have a chance to really solidify himself on this roster. And he goes elsewhere, which really, really stinks because I think he could turn out to be a decent little player in the NHL. So he's off to Boston. So the Stars miss out on that. And that one really, really stings. Again, just kind of quiet. I don't think we were expecting a lot from the Stars as well. Jim Nils said Cody Ceci called him and wanted to come back to Dallas, but they couldn't make it work. Yeah, absolutely. I think that the cap saved us there. Looks like Will Coley, by the way, he's staying in New York. That was a guy that I was a little interested in. He was an RFA, so that's a bit different. Tanner Jeannot, who we talked about, he got paid a lot as well. We can go down some of the more transactions today, and we'll touch on Glen Gulutzan becoming official in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. There's no better time than to get in on the action with FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track your favorite matchups. You can use it to keep it fresh, new daily promotions, fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, makes regular season games really, really exciting. Just like the Texas Rangers recently. Every game seems to be going extra innings. You can get in on the action with FanDuel. Become a part of it. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, so before we get into Glen Gulutzan becoming the official Dallas Stars head coach, I wanted to go through some of the other signings today on July 1st. A lot of interesting moves by different teams. I have to say St. Louis made a lot of interesting acquisitions, but one that really jumped out, and a player we talked about, Tanner Jeannot. The Boston Bruins paid him 5 years, $3.4 million, and that was a bit of an overpay by the Boston Bruins, who also made some really nice additions as well. But that one really stood out. A big name that ended up just staying in the same spot, Brock Boeser. That was one of the, big fish that was going to test the market, and I guess officially he tested the market for like an hour before he ends up re-signing with the Canucks. 7 year, $7.25 million AAV, which seems like a really, really solid deal for the Vancouver Canucks. William Eklund got 3 years, $5.6 AAV from the San Jose Sharks. That's an up and coming forward with San Jose. Joel Armia, he signed with the Los Angeles Kings. They made a couple of heavy signings on the blue line. The Kings did with Cody Ceci, as I mentioned earlier, but they also got Dumoulin. Brian Dumoulin was a player we talked about, I believe, last Friday on a Free Agent Friday as a potential kind of veteran that was in his mid-30s that could come over. He got paid a good chunk of a change as well by Los Angeles. So the Kings are making some big moves. Nicholas Perbix, remember Perbix? We talked about pretty heavily as well. He ends up getting a pretty nice deal with the Nashville Predators, 2 year, $2.75 AAV. I would love for the Stars to make that work. Dumoulin, by the way, signed $4 million AAV for 3 years. So there was a lot of money flying around, but for the most part, some pretty sane decisions, I would say, by most GMs. Vladislav Gavrikov, that was sort of a blue chip defenseman. He ended up signing a 7-year, I believe it's 7-7 with New York. It looks like he'll be paired with Adam Fox. So a lot of curious decisions. I'm curious if there's any moves by certain teams or any teams you thought won free agency here on day one. Remember, we did pretty much crown Nashville the Stanley Cup champions at this time last year, and we all know how that turned out. But let's shift over to Dallas Stars specific discussion here now. Glen Gulutzan, officially the team's head coach, which we did expect. Nil said here, quote, "We are thrilled to name Glen as the head coach of the Dallas Stars. Since his previous time in Dallas, Glen has worked tirelessly to establish himself as one of the most respected coaches in the NHL. His extensive NHL experience, both as head coach and assistant coach, speaks to his ability to innovate and adapt to the modern game, as well as to build relationships with his players. Glen has worked with some of the best players in the world and continually found ways to maximize their skill set to contribute team success. We have full confidence that he's the right person to elevate our team to the next level." Glen Gulutzan will be introduced to the media tomorrow officially, so be on the lookout for that as well. And I want to hold some Stars fans accountable a bit, because I've seen some people on Twitter that I know that were calling for the firing of Pete DeBoer, knowing the options that were out there to become the next head coach of the Dallas Stars, and now being upset about Glen Gulutzan and being upset that they hired somebody that is quote unquote worse than the Dallas Stars. You can't have it both ways. You were calling for DeBoer to be fired right after Game 5, and that eventually happened, and knowing that it wasn't this extensive. There wasn't a no-brainer. Let's just put it that way. They were the last team that still did not have a head coach. Like everybody else had been already picked up. So let's just ease it on like, oh, well, now they hire Gulutzan, and you were calling for the job of Pete DeBoer. You can't have it both ways, Stars fans. So I just want to throw that out there. And I'm not saying it's everybody, but there's some people that, I've seen in the comment section that are complaining about Glen Gulutzan, and I know you were calling for the firing of Pete DeBoer. So let's just cool it and give it some time. But look, again, I did an episode on Gulutzan yesterday. I encourage you to go listen to that. I tried to sell you on Glen Gulutzan, and look, I'm not all gun ho about Glen Gulutzan either. I want to get that straight. I'm not licking the shoes of Glen Gulutzan, but look, he's learned, and I think there's reason to at least be optimistic about what can occur. Alan Nazardine, by the way, some other news: he will remain head coach or assistant coach, Jeff Reese, goaltending coach, Patrick Dolan, head video coach, and Chris Demchuk. I think it's Demchuk, actually. Chris Demchuk will return to join the Gulutzan's coaching staff as well. Just says here, spent the last 7 seasons as assistant coach in Edmonton. Since his first season behind the Edmonton bench, the Oilers lead the NHL with a 26.8% power play percentage in the regular season and a 29.8% power play percentage in the postseason. He's a native of Hudson Bay, Saskatchewan. Interesting enough, all the head coaches Jim Nill has signed have hailed from the great country of Canada. So, of course, you can read the entire press release. Former head coach of the Texas Stars before becoming a head coach of the Dallas Stars in the early 2010s. So Glen Gulutzan is official. By the way, something I missed in the first segment, not really a free agency per se, but the Dallas Stars did sign defenseman Niilo-Pekka Muhonen to an entry-level contract. He was the 6'5", 215-pound defenseman from Finland that was selected in the 5th round in 2024 of the NHL draft. He spent the last season in the Western Hockey League, skated in 60 regular season games, recording 17 points with a +20 minus rating, 45 penalty minutes. Also had 3 points in 18 games during the WHL postseason. So Muhonen has been signed to a 3-year entry level contract. So the Stars got that piece of business done as well. Now, maybe the most exciting news of the entire day, Neil Graham has been promoted. Yes, he will become a Dallas Stars assistant coach next season. We'll discuss that and how stoked I think all Stars fans are about that. So if you recall back to a few weeks when we started to hear murmurs that the coaching decision for the Dallas Stars was coming down to Neil Graham or Glen Gulutzan, we did an episode on about who would you choose if you were the general manager, Jim Nill. And of course, I backed Neil Graham in that one, but I did make the caveat and sort of a prediction. If you're going to hire Glen Gulutzan, Neil Graham has to be an assistant coach. And we found that out today, announced by the Dallas Stars. Yes, you got it, Stars fans. Neil Graham will be behind an NHL bench next season. Neil says, we are pleased to have the opportunity to add Neil to our coaching staff in Dallas. Neil said Neil has spent over a decade as part of the Dallas Stars organization behind the bench in Texas and Idaho, proving at every level his ability to coach. His hockey acumen has made him one of the most sought out after young coaches in professional hockey. Spent the last 6 seasons as the head coach with the Texas Stars, had 183, 140, and 40 record in 363 regular season games. Texas reached the Calder Cup playoffs in 4 of his seasons as head coach, in which the AHL postseason was played, most recently guiding the team to the 2025 Western Conference Final. I think this is a great move because he does have rapport with multiple Dallas Stars. Jake Ottinger, Jason Robertson, Thomas Harley, Lean Bishop, Oscar Beck, Maverick Bork, Justin Ritzkovian possibly if he is elevated next season as well. So I just think this is a great move by the Dallas Stars. Happy this is happening to have Neil Graham behind the bench. And I've stated this multiple times. Remember when Glen Gulutzan became head coach last go-around in Dallas? He was 40 years of age. Neil Graham is just 40 years of age. So there's a lot of maturation that Graham still has to go and can get now behind an NHL bench with Glen Gulutzan. So I think this is just a great 2 birds with 1 stone sort of situation that the Stars are able to get. And let's be honest, I sort of mentioned this yesterday, I believe. If Glen Gulutzan doesn't work out, 3-4 years down the line, maybe you're ready to give Neil Graham a crack at it with him behind the bench and sort of learning the ropes. I just think this is a great move for Neil Graham, number one, and the Dallas Stars, because the Stars get to hold on to him. He remains in the organization, and it may also fire up Neil, or may fire up Gulutzan to some degree, where it's like, okay, my predecessor could be right there if I don't figure it out. So that was one of the more exciting announcements today. I think the announcements off the ice were a bit more exciting. They do plan to hire another assistant, by the way, and it looks like Gulutzan's going to have a pretty, I would suspect, a pretty heavy weight in that decision. So a lot of great stuff the Stars were able to get done, maybe off the ice more than on. But hey, Blackwell, it's good to get him back. And, Radek Faksa is Radek Faksa. It would be nice to see him back in Victory Green. But you look at that roster, man. Stars going to be asking some guys to play some heavy roles. I'm just really fascinated now. And who knows, Stars could make more decisions here in the next, week or so about what these lines are going to look like, because I think the easy decision would be to elevate Wyatt Johnston back on that top line with Robo and Rope. But do they give Rope, Robo, and Rantanen a chance to marinate a bit more? And now you have, I mean, just looking at, right, like you have Ben, Beck, Faksa, Blackwell, and Bork, who are kind of just in that. You could throw Steele into that conversation. Like, they're bottom 6, right, at this point. Like, Ben is at this point in his career. But you're going to be asking, it just feels like at this point, like maybe a Sam Steele, Bork as well, to play some heavy minutes or play some of those, rigorous minutes as well. And it could be make or break for some of those guys. And it could be make or break for the Stars as well next season, just because it's not like they have this plethora of, top 6 talent to just kind of work off of. Like, they got some older, Duchesne's in his mid-30s, Ben, Sagan, they're all kind of in that area. And don't get me wrong, like, this is not the sky is falling for the Dallas Stars. The Stars should be a team I think will make the playoffs, be comfortably within the top 3, the Central again, and if they stay healthy and all that good stuff. But I just think it's going to be a fascinating conversation, just because I don't think the Stars are better than they were last year going in to last season. I remember this time last year, I said, did this Dallas Stars did they get worse? And I don't think they really did in a lot of ways, but they kind of did once the postseason came. Like, the regular season was one thing, but once the playoffs started, I think it's safe to say they were kind of worse than they were last season. Although they survived one less game this past year against Edmonton. But I just, for the most part though, the Stars are just running it back. So they don't have Granlund, but again, they didn't pick up Granlund till the trade deadline. So they're running it back in a lot of ways with Radek Faksa. And they're going to probably ask more out of Bork and some others, which I think is fine. And I think is good. Like, we're going to see what we have in some of these guys. And the blue line is just going to be what the blue line is. And I think, in November, December, we're going to be talking about who's out there that the Stars can go out to acquire at the deadline to try to bolster the blue line, because it's going to be a problem again. And I don't know how they're going to retool it at this point. If they didn't really get it done today, I think it's going to be a really, really tough ask for them to try to do that over the summer. I just think they're going to kind of be like, all right, this is what we're rolling with. And like, this is what we're rolling with, and we're going to roll the dice, and it's going to be a trade deadline away again, which is frustrating because we've been saying that now for 3 years. But to be fair, Stars have gone out and done pretty well at the trade deadline and improved for the most part. But the Stars they're in the situation now. Like, they strangled themselves by what they did last year. And I think the underwhelmingness of this free agency, maybe for some of you Stars fans out there, well, really it's from last year. It's kind of the karma or the recourse of what the Stars did last year. And again, signing Lyubushkin and Dumba at kind of the last minute to $7 million combined. Just not great at all. So we'll see how they get through it. And they didn't buy him out. They missed the deadline to do that. So it'll be fascinating. We're going to have lots of tough conversations over the summer, and it'll be fun. But that will do it for day one of free agency. It doesn't look like the Stars are making any more moves. Jim Nill's already talking, so it's as we speak. So that's going to do it. But want to thank you for the love and support as always. Hit the subscribe button. Drop a comment about how you're feeling about the Stars going into next season. Glen Gulutzan official and Neil Graham. Hit the notification bell. Never miss an episode of Locked On Stars. Continuing to do this every single day. As I mentioned, in a few weeks, we'll be dropping down to about 3 episodes per day, just because the news is going to get very, very light, and we're going to have to come up with some fun conversations, maybe some fun segments, have some more guests as well. So be prepared for that. But for now, still just grinding every day, and plenty to talk about with Glen Gulutzan being official and Neil Graham now promoted. So some good stuff there. But have a great rest of your day, Stars fans, and we'll see you tomorrow. So long.